You're listening to Audioversity, and I would like to welcome you all to the Wandering Jew podcast. I'm your host, Naomi Edelman. I thank you for joining me on this journey to explore the diverse experiences of humans. Today's guest is a third-year business administration and entrepreneurship student specializing in finance. I would like to introduce this beautiful human,
Hi.
Mr. Davi Lavi. Welcome, Davi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. First podcast. I'm excited.
I'm excited that you're here. I want to start off by asking a question from our previous guest. You know her, Kat.
Yeah, Miss Cat.
Miss Kat.
She's still in Utah, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
She wanted to know, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live and why?
Well, that's kind of an easy one. Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv?
I mean, let's see. If like you want the easy answer, like, yeah, Tel Aviv. Like, I'm
For
here.
real?
I love Israel. I want to stay in Israel. But if we're saying like 10, 20 years down the line, just wherever, then it's complicated. I want to be across the world, but Singapore has always appealed to me. There's something like,
Whoa.
I love the beauty of Singapore and how clean and like, it's like the only dictatorship that works in the world, you know? So I'm curious just to see it. I don't know if I'd want to live there. I hear it gets boring. But from Singapore, it's very international. You can travel anywhere. I don't know the East at all. I've never really been to like Asia so much. So
it's enticing.
Singapore, I think it has a unique culture, unique like society, and also you can use it as a place to travel. It's like across a whole nother part of the world that I've never seen.
100%. That's really interesting because Kat also wants to go to Singapore specifically.
No way.
So it's kind of wild that
we can be roommates.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Kat, we'll hook you up. Okay. So first of all, super interesting. You know what's funny is I went to Tel Aviv yesterday.
Mm-hmm. So did I.
All I did though was I was like, okay, I'm planning on going to do some work there, whatever. I normally have very productive days. Yesterday, sometimes you have them. Okay, sometimes you don't have your productive days. Yesterday was not one for me. I went to Tel Aviv. I got there, was so overwhelmed that I just came back. I just couldn't. And I think, you know, that's also valuable to learn because there was like a point where I was kind of, you know, playing around in my head of possibly living there. And then after going there yesterday, I think I finally decided I could not do it. It's just too overstimulating. Like, I say the same about New York, that if you took out all the people and there were just the buildings, I would be so overstimulated just by the buildings alone, and vice versa. If you took out all the buildings and just had the people, I would be so overstimulated by just people watching. And so like Tel Aviv and New York are both a synthesis of both of those really stimulating things that I think it's just too much.
That's fair. But what, would you want to stay in Herzliya? More suburbs? No.
Not Herzliya, but I don't know where. That's such a good question. You know what's attractive to me is Pardes Khana, because I feel like I get it. It's all the hippie stoners, whatever. But but there's religious communities there.
Yeah.
And also they have a really good balance, just like my hometown, of kind of like suburb feel, but also city, that it's a good and nature, and it's a balance of those three things that I think is really rare, and you could get all of your needs met.
I was going to say I could see you on a kibbutz near the beach.
Yeah.
Like, that fits your vibe. It's beautiful nature, mountains in the back, beach in the front.
So basically move back to Engedi is what you're saying?
I don't know. Maybe go find somewhere new, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, respect. I like it. Okay, Davi, I actually wanted to ask you about this. I've been playing around with this idea this week. As you know, I was telling you that I sometimes want to go to Texas and move there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about like, why do I have that feeling inside of me that sometimes I just want to like drop everything here and go? And I think that it comes down to like this feeling of having kind of a fractured identity where and it can be really beautiful and enriching and really broad in your mind, but sometimes it can also actually be really painful to have a fractured identity because like you have all these roots and you don't necessarily get to, you know, grow with all of them to their fullest extent. So like I'm Russian, American, and now Israeli, and so it's weird to have to just like cut off a part of you and just let it die as an immigrant. And I'm sure like all immigrants feel that way. And so I was wondering, like, do you ever feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a lot of time to think about this. I guess I'll give some context. When I was in Washington, D.C., before I moved to Israel for college, I was studying at a school called American University, which was extremely left-wing. And there, their whole focus, underlying every single class, every single student, every single administrator, every single teacher, it was about developing an identity and not a personality. They wanted you to fit into a box, and they were Marxists there. So the boxes were normally oppressor and oppressed. So me, being a Jew, I had to put myself in, like, if they would ask you, like, how are you oppressed? You know, along what, like, graph? Where do you fit in on the oppression
scale? Like, explicitly they would ask you? Wow.
We had a course, like, AUX, the AU experience. It was the freshman, like, 101 orientation class.
Yeah.
There was an exercise where it was put yourself on the oppression scale, right? And for me, I'm like, listen, I am an American from an upper middle class, like, well-off family who's never really experienced malicious discrimination or anything. I'm not oppressed. Like, well, why are you telling me this? I didn't come here to cry about my problems and think about this. But it forced me into thinking a lot about my identity. And my mom's side of the family is Cuban. But before Cuba, Turkey, before Cuba, Spain. So Sephardi. My grandfather is from Iran. Both are fascinating cultures, but my parents both kind of ran away from those cultures to California, to the Bay Area. They met in San Francisco, and they made their identity, like the progressive California dream, back when it was what it was. But so I was raised with the identity of an American Jew, not a Jewish American, right? I was American first, Jewish second. And then, you know, Sephardi, Persians, Cuban, all that stuff kind of after. But when I was in DC, they forced me to reconcile with that, and I came to the realization that, yes, identity it's extremely important. And you're right, it is like a tree that you can grow in any of these directions. But I realized identity should be secondary to personality. You should try and form yourself as an individual and have your identity as something that it's the roots, but it's not the tree, right? Maybe it's a little backwards, but your roots have grown. Your identity has grown and it's been planted for you. Now you're the tree that pops up from it. And maybe you can choose which of your roots you lean heavier on, but that's the way I would put it, if that makes sense.
Davi, you said something exactly what I needed to hear. That's beautiful. That was a really important distinction, and I'm so glad that you said that. Like, that was some truth that I just really needed to be served.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Of course. So let me connect with Texas. Texas and Israel, I was actually speaking to Sam. For the listeners, Sam is...
his bestie.
My bestie, yeah. We'll just go with that.
For the rest.
Also from Austin, Texas, but much more Texan than me, right? He's like good old Texas boy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a connection we were trying to figure out between Texas and Israel. And the joke I made when I moved is I'm going from God's country to the Holy Land, right?
That's amazing.
And
that's so true.
There's certainly something there. Like, you know, Texans at their core, they do share a lot of the same values as Israelis. Mannerisms, not at all, but some of their ways of operating, you can draw parallels. So I think there's something in Texas that you would appreciate, that you would see. Again, it's Israel and Texas are not the same in any way. But there's very very deep under the surface, there are some things that they share.
Yeah.
Family values.
Yeah.
A lack of materialism. Like, their focus on experiences instead of material things, I would say, are some of the core things. I haven't thought so much about it. I don't have a perfect example. But there's definitely some kind of connection. So I'm curious to see your experience in Texas and hear about it.
Oh, I'm so excited to go because I feel like it would, first of all, I love what you pointed out. Like, yeah, I think it's a commonality of certain values that you see that are parallel.
Yeah.
But yeah, their expressions are obviously totally different given our diverse histories and everything. But yeah, I'm actually really excited to go because I think it will be a great opportunity to kind of like just maybe imagine a little bit of what a potential future could look like if I were to have like nurtured that root more. I want to build my life here, but sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it's hard.
I'll give you some recommendations for Austin, but I do remember a conversation we had a long time ago. I warned you, Texans are very mean in a nice way.
Yeah,
right?
Like, oh, bless your heart.
Lord bless your heart.
Lord bless your heart.
Well, ain't that special, honey? Be careful. If you hear that, They're not being nice.
Yeah, they're being
just
really
keep
rude.
that in mind.
Yeah, like
One little
super
side
passive
note.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Amazing. I wanted to talk to you about mental toughness.
Yeah.
You and I both had a course this semester with Daron, and he was our teacher for mental toughness. And I feel like
he was your teacher. I just came to the class.
Yes, right. But we both experienced him.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I just want to say he's an incredibly amazing human, and he really just reinforced so many important values for me. And it felt like, first of all, it couldn't have come at a more opportune time, given that we're going through a war, y'all. I don't know if you knew that. It's wartime.
Yeah.
Which is such a crazy thing to say out loud. Like, I feel like I have to keep saying it in order for it to feel real.
You're forgetting, Herzlia.
You forget, and it's just, so many crazy things happen this semester that I have to keep on reiterating to myself because it doesn't feel real, and it's like a way of processing, I think. And this like course couldn't have come at a more perfect time given the war, and I think like it was such a good. I'm so grateful for him and for it because it was such a great like pump up for the next week, and I feel like every single week I actually really needed to hear exactly what he had to say, and I needed to be like reinvigorated, and I needed to like have some chizuk like given to like continue going, because it was actually hard like at certain points, and like personal things were also happening along with like a war, and then your friends are dying, your whatever, just like everything's happening around you, and it's really intense, and it's kind of crazy going through wartime and being in school at the same time. Like I really thought about this a lot. Like it's kind of crazy because this past summer I was reading a lot of Zionist books, and they were all talking about different wars, and you know, I was listening to them, and I was you kind of picture yourself in that situation. What would you be doing like at the start of the of all of the major wars in Israel, right? Like I was literally imagining myself then, but I always imagined myself in a much more active role, and then you end up being like a civilian. And then I realized actually like the purpose and the hardships of also being a civilian, and like I kind of always brush those aside, like, oh, you're lucky if you're a civilian, but actually it's also an integral part of the war is being a civilian, because not everyone can be serving on the front lines, and that's like really important. But also you have to continue building society and building the infrastructure, and there has to be a country to come back to. And like the fact, like I'm really emboldened and like so proud of the people around me who have like lost so many people, and they're able to like do SQL. Like who cares about SQL when like people are dying? Like the just strength that people have had around me has been really inspiring and super unbelievable. And like the mental fortitude and mental toughness that people have had to be going through what they're going through is kind of insane. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I just want to hear like.
Absolutely agree with all of that.
Yeah.
I have a few different thoughts. First of all, it was something interesting I heard recently. It was about the idea of like a citizen soldier, right? Like both, you could look at this in Gaza and say, it's two very different things, but I think the citizens of Gaza and the citizens of Israel are both soldiers, maybe in very different ways. But I don't want to get into the Palestinian conflict too much here, but my heart goes out to some of the people who don't ask for these things, you know, who never wanted this war, but there are some of them who have supported this effort and have made Hamas into what it is. And I think that kind of idea of like the citizens, this is their war as well. It's not just the people who pick up guns and go and fight that are fighting this war. It's everyone involved. And the same goes for Israel. The difference is for us, like the way we can fight this war is we will dance again, right? That kind of message of like, no matter what they do, we will continue to live our lives as we should. You know, we won't let this impact us. There's a photo I loved of like Ben Gurion Airport, like a plane taking off, and they're just rockets going all over the place. It's like, even when they're launching missiles at us, Israelis are so crazy. They're like, we got a destination. We're just going to go. Like, your missiles don't scare us.
Yeah.
That's insane. No, yeah. I don't know any other country that would operate like that, but...
Yeah, like Israel's the only country that actually had a greater percentage of people coming to immigrate after the war. Like Ukraine, you saw a lot of people leaving, and I think that says a lot about the Jewish...
Absolutely. I heard from a rabbi, I don't know if it's true, but he said like a month after the war started, Israel's population grew 3% from the Miluim people returning. And that kind of makes sense. Like, I believe it. People have a deep connection to Israel, and they're willing to leave and fight for it. One of my friends was in Sri Lanka surfing, and he said when he got to the airport, October 9th, I think, it was only Israelis. Everyone was speaking Hebrew, just going back for the army. Like, wow, you know? I think Israel, it's a hard place to understand if you haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
You can't look at Israel and the situation from the outside and understand it. You have to be on the inside.
Yeah.
So when I was home with my friends in Texas and in California and, you know, across the U.S., none of them really understood why I wanted to go back and why I felt so strongly. And there's a story I love. I think it was 2021 or 2022. In the summer, I was in Portugal with my family, and there were rockets in Israel, and I called some friends just to make sure they were okay. They were, I think, at like gazebo by the beach doing shots every time they saw a missile. Like, and, you know, I'm reading the news 10 minutes before, and it's like, Israel under attack, huge panic, balagan, like, you should be terrified if you're in Israel. I call my friends, they're at the beach drinking.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't explain that. Americans especially do not understand that thought process.
Yeah. I remember, like, more at the beginning of the war, I was, like, walking also on the beach in Herzliya, and you're already, like, there are certain parts where there just wouldn't even be a siren, and, like, you couldn't hear it anyway, so, like, we didn't even hear it, but we saw like the Iron Dome hitting them, and like everybody's swimming in. It just feels like the Truman Show, where everything's so idyllic. You know, you're looking at the ocean, you're looking at everyone kind of living life and having fun, and then you're literally seeing, like, if it weren't for this AI, everyone's saying AI is going to destroy lives. If we didn't have AI, like with the Iron Dome, then we would all be dead. And so you're just watching the Iron Dome hitting these missiles, and you're just like, what is my life? Like, this is so wild, and it's kind of like breaking through the like,
it's like the Matrix. You're seeing through
you're
the
seeing
veil.
through it. Exactly.
I'm excited for the Iron Beam. I want to see that in action. You know about this?
Yeah. Dude, I'm
That's
so
a game
excited.
changer.
That's gonna be wild.
Yeah.
That's gonna be wild. They just have to figure out how to make sure it doesn't overheat, though. That's the issue.
I think a company out of Singapore also is developing it, is what I heard. Another reason I want to go to Singapore.
Nice.
But
Singapore.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool. The Singapore, I have a friend from DC. The IDF helped train like the Singapore military. They love Israel over there.
Do they?
Very Zionist.
Damn.
Yeah. Just a
surprised.
Random little fun fact.
Yeah, that is a fun fact.
Yeah. Singapore loves Israel.
That's nice. I didn't know that. It's always nice to have, you know,
Support.
some people who like you. I feel like one of the biggest things that shocked me about when the war started is, like, I'm not super into the victimhood thing. I wasn't raised that way. It was like, you know, you're not a victim in life. Like, everybody has their crap because you're human, and everybody is dealt their hand. Everybody has major pain, and everyone's, like, perception of pain is different, but, like, it's whatever. Everybody has their struggles in life. And so I never really took anti-Semitism that seriously, and I always put it like, okay, proportionate to what? And I always thought, like, anti-Semitism, I think everyone's overreacting with everything, and I do think that there were moments in history with major anti-Semitism, but I never thought that, like, there was anything major about what I was living through. And then when the war started, I remember one of the biggest shockers to me was seeing how everyone else was reacting. I was like, oh, surely everyone would be on our side about this. And I was shocked to see, like, how many people weren't from the outset and were saying, but we have to put it into context. You know, we have to contextualize this. And even more so, people who were on our side, but then, like, gave us only a short grace period or something for how much we can deal with it. And it's just, I don't know. I remember that to me was the most shocking thing. So I want to ask you, like, from your perception since the war, what has changed you the most? Like, what have you felt like, I don't know, how has your perception of people changed? How's your perception of the world changed?
Okay. So I'll just say, like, I hate Instagram so much.
Cool.
Everyone who posts stories and all that stuff, look, bringing awareness to issues, especially the war, I understand. But at some point I get fatigued of it. You know, a week later I was like, okay, like, yes, this is a horrible thing, but you're not changing anything by posting on Instagram, in my opinion. The people who agree with you are liking everything you're posting, and the people who disagree with you have already unfollowed you.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's surface level. I how do one thing this is stuck with me for a while and it really bothers me. I have cousins who are very close in age to me and my sister. They were raised in Chicago in a like modern Orthodox community. They have completely turned away from Israel, gone very far to the left. They one of them has a poster in I would say her, but now I believe her pronouns are they them. So technically they're whatever. Marav has a poster that says "End Israeli Apartheid," and her other sister, who is now a guy, transgender.
In one family?
One family. Gotcha. My cousins.
Mm.
And the referenced the IDF is the Israeli occupation forces. Well, during the Chagim, like in my grandmother's house, and my family is very much a Zionist family. So that, once the war started, I thought, you know what, maybe this will knock some sense into them. Maybe they'll see that people not only hate Israel, but kind of hate the Jews, right? There's a very big difference between anti-Zionism, which to a certain degree I can understand, but anti-Semitism, that's something entirely different. They might understand the distinction, but it made no difference for them. So what I was curious is, will they look at this situation and see that a lot of their anti-Zionist friends are actually just anti-Semitic and using them as a, look at my Jewish token friends who actually hate Israel.
Right.
But now they're realizing, no, these are actually just people who hate Jews. Complete opposite. They got worse, you know? I'm not going to tell stories about it because it just makes me angry, but I was hoping that this would be a wake-up call, and for a lot of people it has. For them it hasn't, but there's something I think you have to reconcile with at a certain point. A lot of the American Jews are comfortable. America is a very comfortable place, and they felt comfortable enough with the whole situation, but I think this kind of calls into perspective that, hey, people don't really like you for who you are without knowing who you are. People just don't like Jews, and okay, sababa. Like, in my opinion, fuck them. You don't like us?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Right?
I literally don't care.
Yeah, exactly. But it's different when, swastikas are being drawn on your family's shul or you have protests with swastikas outside of it. That's an entirely different feeling. So for me, it made the question of where do I go, identity. Who do I dedicate myself to? Am I American or am I a Jew? It made all of that just... It answered a lot of questions for me. It's that, okay, the world hates me. Israel is my home. Sababa. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, end of story. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it does. I think you made a great point, like, to kind of even connect back to the beginning is, like, I have, like, this fantasy about Texas, but I'm also aware that it's not.
I'll tell you just real quick. I was at a protest, like a pro-Israel rally with my mom, and normally I don't go to these kinds of things. I don't care about like that kind of political rallies, that kind of stuff. But I figured I'd go to this one, and I went with my mom, and there were, it was lovely. It was amazing, happy community, good people. It just made me so happy to hear Hebrew again as well. But then we left, and got lunch, had a drink with some of the Israelis. And we were driving past the Capitol, and the Palestinian rally had started, and it was like 3 times bigger.
No way.
But that's not what was interesting. What was interesting is the cops had changed. They were in full, like, military gear with bigger guns, dogs, riot gear. There were a good amount at the Israeli one, at the Jewish one, but at the Palestinian one, completely different vibe. The message was very clear. Do not fuck around.
Whoa.
So that was something I paid attention to. Texas, I won't say that the Texans love Jews, but they certainly don't really like the Muslims, at least in certain areas. I'm very much overgeneralizing, and Texans are very good people. They'll give you a chance, warm welcome, but the stereotypes have some truth to them.
Yeah.
So that was my my experience in Texas with this.
Yeah, I think that's valuable. It's like, I think the conclusion is that Israel's our home, and if we don't like things about it, then we have to fix them. And like, we're building it right now, like it's in the process. You can't judge it because it's in the process of growing. Like, you wouldn't like judge a child. It's in its process, and like if we see things that we feel are ills in the society or that we want to fix, then that's kind of why we're here. Like that's our job. And it's an incredible blessing to have a greater perspective, and like also to have more perspective than someone who grew up here and therefore is kind of missing some context of what makes this uniquely a Jewish country and what makes this place special. So like maybe the fact that we have our unique perspectives coming from America, then we can like integrate the good things about America here and leave the bad. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Funny, just a little story. When I was in DC, I became really good friends with this guy, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank, we've stayed in touch ever since. He's come and visited me in Texas. He was in Germany for a year abroad, and he came to Israel at a really bad time. It was during finals, so I didn't get to spend enough time and show him the proper experience. But, he went to Jerusalem, we went to the Kotel, he went to the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
We got the Tel Aviv Herzliya experience, but he got to see Israel for what it is.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to D.C., far left, anti-Israel, all this stuff. And some of our mutual close friends, this guy did a semester in Amman in Jordan, right? Very pro-Palestine, very anti-Israel. So for me, Frank, it was just an interesting thing to see the dynamic play out between the two of them. Frank, who's a fairly objective, neutral person in this, but he understands both sides of the culture. When he was here, he also went to Wadi Rum and to Petra. So he got to see Jordan.
Yeah.
Right? I love Jordan. Petra's amazing. I think it's the Bedouins there. Lovely people. Like, I have nothing against them. But it was interesting for him to go back and to see, now that he knows Israel, and he knows Jordan a little bit, and he kind of has an understanding of the culture, he can see the inaccuracies in the arguments that they're making against us, and he's experienced it, and we're not an evil people, and
yeah,
perhaps the portrayal in some circles tries to make us out to that, and I'll just leave it there. But
I remember Douglas Murray, he said that, like I have been a huge fan of him for many years and loved his books, and I think that he has a lot of bravery, and I was kind of, since the war happened, I was kind of really proud of certain people and really grateful for certain people who, were speaking on our behalf, and really disappointed for a lot of people who were public figures that I thought were, that I had assessed as good people, and then they kind of like really disappointed me, because it's not just that they're not agreeing with me, but their disagreement actually can cause harm to us, because if it's not just words. Like, words are incredibly, incredibly powerful tools. Like, if you are espousing something that you don't know anything about, or you're even making the situation a little bit murky, then you're giving lack of moral clarity, and lack of moral clarity puts us into harm's way. Like, it actually does, because then we're not justified on the public stage for doing what we have to do to protect our citizenry, and then all of a sudden, like, our time's running out to do what we have to do when they like raped and murdered tons of our people. Like, how is that good? How is that just? It's not. So I was really grateful for him like speaking out, and that I had assessed his moral character accurately. Like, I was really like happy about that. And he came here, and a lot of people were asking, like, why are you here? Like, why are you supporting the Jews, whatever? And he said that I have been here when a lot of the wars broke out, because I think that there's incredible value of being here, and people can't tell you that, like, people can't tell you, oh, you're biased because of this, because of that, because he actually spoke to them and he's seen it with his own eyes. So people can't disagree with you assessing something and being like having firsthand experience. People can't refute that. So yeah. I think that there's a lot of value to that, and that's amazing that your friend had that also.
So I'm not so familiar with Douglas Murray, and there are a few points in there that I want to respond to, but I think the first one you said, like, yeah, we need to defend ourselves from the people that, did what they did, right? And I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, kind of on Likud and proportional response, because I think concept creep has really infiltrated how we've responded to the whole situation. I think, like,
explain concept creep.
You start with one idea and the ball just keeps rolling, and you lose sight of the initial point, right? Like,
yeah.
On October 8th, it was very clear that destroying Hamas and preventing these kinds of attacks was essential.
Yeah.
But now that we're, 136 days post the war, the ball has rolled pretty far from where it started.
Yeah.
And now we're, bombing refugee camps, and the death toll it doesn't look proportional anymore, and the world is turning their back on us and kind of saying like, hey, you guys need to stop. You need to chill out. You need, like, I think, so I want to tie this in because obviously Israel needs to defend itself and dismantle Hamas and bring back the hostages. But I don't think that having the people in charge, Likud, are making the right decisions for the country as a whole. I mean, you can see, it's not hard to see, like, the incentives for them to start another war with Hezbollah. They remain in power longer. If they create another crisis, then you can't create a third crisis by replacing the government at hand, right? So I'm just curious to hear, do you have any opinions on...
Yeah. So I'm going to respond to the second thing first and then the first one, just because that was more nascent. So the second thing that you said, to my understanding, it's a unity government. So I think that kind of refutes that Likud is like some evil like power that's trying to, I also just, like, in my heart of hearts, I kind of disagree with Bibi for certain things. For me, it's mainly about COVID. Actually, really, I think was like so not okay what he did. But I know a lot of people are upset at him about other things. But I personally think that he's actually a Zionist and that he's very historically literate. He recognizes his place in history from how he speaks. I definitely assess that about his character. And so I think he should resign after this, but I don't think that it's like Likud has some evil propaganda or like evil intentions to continue a war. I think that's kind of like that they have this malicious intent for more war. I think that's not so based in reality.
I would say, first of all, about Bibi, actually I'll go first. I think Itamar Ben-Gvir is his name. That guy, I would say, is the embodiment of what I'm trying to point out, the problems with Likud. As far as Bibi goes, I think he's done amazing things for Israel. He's changed it. He's made us the country we are. I mean, I listened to his podcast with Jordan Peterson, and he did explain very well that Israel used to be a very socialist, dysfunctional country, and he fixed that. And he was an amazing politician.
Yeah, that was insane.
He was fantastic. He's done so much for Israel. He's made us into the country we are. But that old saying of die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
I think he's become the villain. It's become more about the power than the help. He's now, I think it's a point where he's hurting the country more than he's helping it. That's my assessment, and I'm ignorant to a lot of
I feel like he has to finish this. Like, I like what Natan Sharansky said, that like he told him specifically, like, you can't stay in power for too long. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just not good for you as a person anymore to be in power for that long. Like, it doesn't bode well for your soul. It doesn't bode well for the people. And I think that's true. Like, I think the term limits in America are a very good idea.
Absolutely.
And just get to have like fresh blood. And I think it's just not good for the individual either. But I don't think that whatever. I really just don't think that that's Likud's intent is to start wars. I really don't see that. And it's also unity government. So it's like not even Likud totally in power. It's like wartime. So it's emergency unity government. And to the previous thing that you had said about proportionality, I think it's one of the dumbest things in the world to be talking about proportionality genuinely. I mean, war is disgusting and evil. That's why we want to avoid it at all costs. But please name me one war that was ended with proportional response. It just doesn't happen. Like World War II.
I'm thinking of Pearl Harbor here.
Pearl Harbor, whatever. Like, it's just...
They bombed one military outpost, a port, and then we dropped 2 nuclear bombs on their cities.
And it ended the war. It's not very, very controversial, but it did end the war. And I just don't like this whole idea that proportional responses end wars is ridiculous. Like, how, like, please, and if anybody has a better military solution, like better military strategy for helping us, kill less Palestinians when they put them, when they hide behind the civilians, I am all ears open. I'm sure Israel is all open, to input, but nobody has any ideas. They're just free and fair to criticize, and it's like, it's very easy to criticize. It's very hard to come up with solutions. Like, the fact that we're even there is because we're trying to minimize casualties. It would be so much easier for us to just bomb it to hell. We could do that.
Do you know Jocko Willink?
Yeah, dude, that guy's crazy.
Yeah, but in a good way.
Yeah, no, in the best way.
He he was very involved in counterinsurgency with the Navy SEALs in the U.S. Army.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing, like, I think October 13th or something. He's got a podcast called, like, The Unraveling. I would highly recommend it. But he said Israel is winning the war, but losing the information war.
Yeah.
The world is turned against us because of the way we're conducting ourselves. And I think he was exactly right about that. I think I understand why we're doing things the way we're doing, but about proportional response, there's levels of escalation. Like in police forces, if someone attacks you with their hands, you're like allowed to use a taser. If someone attacks you with a knife, you're allowed to use a gun. You're allowed to go up one level. I think that's absolutely, like, the same thing applies in war. The fact is, the way they started this war was such a disgusting, like, sucker punch of a way to start that, yeah, I think Israel, the gloves are off. We're allowed to respond in an ugly way. But again, it's that concept creep. Is now we're a long ways down from the start of the war, and people, including myself, are kind of forgetting how ugly the start was, which makes the proportional response seem out of balance.
That's why I think it's really important to continuously remind ourselves everything that happened, and also recognize how it's affected all of us as humans, and like it's affecting us all in different ways. And it was, it's traumatic. Like, it's actually insane. Like, I woke up and I was hearing bombs. It's not a normal life. Nobody should live that way. And like, I was like 23, I'm 24 now, but it's, kids are living through this. They're understanding that war is happening. They're having people around them dying. Like, they know about hostages, and, you're welcoming hostages back home. Thank God, some of them, but that's like not even obvious any of them would come home. A ton of them are still kidnapped. There's a kid from our school who's kidnapped, kids from our school who are dead. Like, it's actually insane what we've gone through, what we've been through. And it's really important to continuously remind ourselves. And like, it will even come out in different ways that we're not fully aware of till later. Like, for example, I recognize that I've all of a sudden become really, really sensitive to this is like really personal and super psychological, but I think this is true. Like, after seeing the embodiment of how horrific these acts actually were, of how they raped women to death, and that's what happened. They talked about how they had broken pelvises, that they raped them to death. Like, I can't even believe, and I have to say it because I can't even believe it, but that's how grotesque this stuff actually was. This is how bad it actually was. And to these like kids who were at a party, that they raped tons of them to death. That's what happened. Like, and seeing that and having those images of those dismembered women and, their bodies just completely torn apart, like, and burned and incinerated. Like, I think it's important to remember that, and having that image in my head of like what actual evil looks like with sexuality and how bad it could actually be. Anything even remotely sexually immoral that I experience, or like I even feel someone's intentions are a little like are looking at me like a physical body instead of like a soul, then I all of a sudden feel like slightly traumatized. Like, I just feel really, really bad all of a sudden. And like, even in that way, like, that's something that I recognized this past week, that's how it affected me, because they were the embodiment of how bad things can get. We have to be the complete embodiment of how good things can get, and see each other as complete souls, as a body and a soul, and as like just recognizing the godliness in all of us, because they did the exact opposite. So we have to be the polar opposite, and we now have an anchor for seeing what pure evil is and how bad it actually is. And so yeah
I don't know how graphic you want to get, but
I think it's important to be as graphic and as honest as possible.
Okay, so then I'll tell two stories. The first one, I was at a party with my girlfriend, a frat party in the U.S., and I was sitting, like at a couch, and I remember she went to the bathroom, she left for a few minutes. I remember seeing her walk out of the bathroom, kind of stumble out, and it was weird because she wasn't the girl to get like really trashed, but it looked like she was like blackout drunk, like stumbles, hits the wall pretty hard, and I was like, what's going on? She looks at me, she opens her mouth and kind of like lifts her arm, reaches out to say something, and then just collapses. She was roofied.
Shut up.
And I just remember going to the hospital with her, but like the energy I had, I was terrified for her. I was scared for her. But the feeling of I want to fucking find and hurt whoever did this to her, I found myself going to a very dark place because I'm sitting, she's passed out next to me in the ambulance, and I'm just staring at her like she looked so peaceful, but at the same time something so evil had been done to her. And I just remember
Yeah.
that feeling. Like, it took me to a very dark place, and I have no remorse for anyone who would do these kinds of things. I think rapists are this, like, I think hanging them is too good for them for what they do. But October 7th, I was in Belize on a fishing trip with my family. And I remember I got the call from a friend. Like, my friend called me, and I was like, "Hey, Ben, what's up? Like, check out the view. I'm on the beach. It's a beautiful place." And he's like, "Yeah, nice. Whatever, Davi, have you heard the news?" I'm like, no. Like, what news? And he's like, "Israel's under attack." I'm like, like, that's not really news. Like, how bad? And he's like, they're like a lot dead. Like, 200 of them are in Israel." I'm like, "What do you mean 200 are in Israel?" He's like terrorists are in Israel. I'm like, "I'll call you back." And for the rest of the trip, I was just staring at screens, glued to my phone, like extremely depressed and upset. And then when I got back to the US, I spent like a whole day on Reddit and these other websites that I would not recommend. But there's a video that it haunts me. There's a terrorist who rapes a mother and a daughter in front of their entire family and then kills them one by one. And just, like, when I saw that, I can't explain the feeling, but it was like, wow, like, these people are dogs, and I hope every last one of them gets what's coming to them. And
Yeah.
I've tried to bury that feeling because it puts me in a very dark place, but I think it's, like you said, it's important not to forget it, but I don't know now how to control it, because, like, even now, just thinking about that story, I'm tensing up. Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit of an adrenaline rush because,
Yeah.
like, how the fuck, like, you claim to be a holy man, you claim to do this for your God, like, you do this for Allah. Look at what you're doing. You people are fucking dogs.
Yeah.
Raping women and children in front of their families, laughing as they kill them. I'll never forget that video. It bothers me.
Yeah.
Um,
I think, like, a lot of these emotions are just too big to take in all at once. Like, it's just it's too much pain to take in at once, and I think it's coming out in intervals, like, as time goes on, that I'll notice, at least for myself, I notice, like, it comes out randomly, or like I'll cry randomly because it's just too much to process at once. And I think our brains are all protecting us by, like, moving on and okay, whatever, like, there's life around us, but it's actually like, I can't even believe it happened. I can't even believe it happened, and I have to keep reminding myself. And I think that's why it's important to keep on saying it, because it's too big to process these emotions. It's too big. I still feel the pain of the Holocaust, and I didn't even live through it. And it's too big to process that you, like, only think about it sometimes. But it's just the emotions are just too big.
I was in Poland last year. I saw the camps. I saw the mass graves. I still don't know what to think, how to feel.
Yeah.
It's just it's a feeling. It's not something you can articulate properly. Yeah. It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the topic a little bit if you're okay with that. I want to ask you about, like, the sanctity of life, because I was trying to understand how we got into this position, and I got a little fixated on Gilad Shalit, the trade for him.
Yeah.
For context, Israel traded 1,024 terrorists for one soldier, not a significant soldier, just a soldier. Included in the terrorists they traded was Sinwar, the guy who's leading Hamas right now. And Bibi was the one who facilitated the trade, if I remember correctly. But it's just such an interesting one, because we proved that we were willing to trade 1,000 of some of the scum of the earth, the worst people who are dedicated to destroying Israel, for one soldier. And it's not that we even just traded the one soldier, or traded for the one soldier. There was also a very heavy price we got to capture these 1,000 people. So 1,000 terrorists, I should say. I'm wondering if we've realized that math is different. But then how does that apply to the 134 hostages? Do we take a ceasefire deal to bring those people back, or do we reject it because we no longer value their lives at all, and we're willing to do what has to be done to get rid of Hamas, right? I'm curious to hear what you think about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to say what I think, and, like, I know it's kind of controversial, but I on the one hand, I think what it's really talking about is like the two cruxes of this argument is basically feeling your individuality and your importance in your life versus feeling your importance in history and in a bigger picture. And I think like since the war started, I have been going on runs in the morning at like 4 and just being by myself. Like I go because I'm by myself, and I really feel like I'm alone with God, and
Headphones?
I can just like I
don't use headphones. Try without headphones. That'll take you to a dark place.
You know, I have the most epic thoughts though at that time, and I started to randomly stumble upon these kind of phrases in my head that I was like, everything I'm doing is for my family, for my nation, and for my God. And that was like a mantra that I started to tell myself, is everything I'm doing is for my family, for my nation, and for my God, and for the glory of all of them. And I started learning
in that order.
No.
Did you say? In what order?
For my God, for my nation, and for my family.
Okay.
And I think it was just going from smallest to biggest was, I guess, the order. But, and so I started to think about things in those terms and really learning more about Jewish history and thinking about our future. And I think putting yourself in the context of history, all of a sudden you have a very different perspective, and you stop thinking about yourself as a sole individual and everything that's important to you, but you start to think about yourself in how you serve the grander picture and the grander vision. And I heard Natan Sharansky saying in an interview that he was talking to with Barry Weiss, that he was talking to one of the hostages' fathers, and it's like, it's an impossible thing to say to somebody's face, but this is like, also it just depends like what you value more. Do you let go of the individual life because you know you're going to die at any point in your life? So are you working for a grander vision, or are you working for your own life? And like it's really almost, it's impossible to actually live this. Like it's very hard, but some people are able to. And like he was talking to the father, and the father was saying, well, could we have like a ceasefire? Could we like stop the war just so that they'll trade all the hostages, like full on stop the war and we'll trade the hostages? Would that be like can we have that trade-off? And he said like, listen, he was basically talking about the grander vision of history and how we see things from a more macro perspective sometimes when we get too micro. And like, and so the father was saying, so what you're telling me is that I should just accept my son's death. And he started to cry. And it's like, it's an impossible thing to tell a father, but I wouldn't be able to feel that way probably as a parent.
No, because it's emotional. You can't detach emotionally.
No, but as an individual, I do accept that risk, like that I could be killed for my country, and that's why I live here. And I was thinking the other day, like about, you know, how I had this thought like of going to Texas, and I was like, you know, I think part of me doesn't want to leave the country because I'm scared that I'll die somewhere else. And I was like, I really want to die in Israel. Like I need to die in Israel. I don't know why. I just feel that in my bones. And I'm like, and if I die here, like this is whatever, like it would be an epic way to die, also to like die for your country. For me, the cause is much more important, and maybe that's crazy, maybe that's fanatical for some people, but
no, I don't think it is.
Having an orientation for something greater than yourself is one of the biggest things for your life. In terms of Gilad Shalit, I just think it's bad policy, and that was a new policy enacted like relatively recently. We never used to do that. We never used to trade terrorists for people. And it's also really bad because I think it's more of a marketing ploy where you're like, oh, exactly, this is for this individual, this is how much we value life, when in reality you're trading his life for not the terrorist lives, for more Jewish lives. So I actually think you're spilling more Jewish blood. And we see that happened. We traded Gilad Shalit for thousands of Israelis. So I don't want to get into that moral calculus because it's bereft and it's disgusting, and I don't want to start valuing people's lives. And I would like never want to be in the position of a politician that has to do that. Like I think all of us can criticize as much as we want, but if we had that actual power in our hands, I pity the person who has to make that decision, and I think it's a stain on your soul no matter what. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I really don't think there's a good choice there, but for me personally as a Zionist, like that's how I see myself, is that I try to see myself personally in a grander vision, and I think that gives you a lot more solace, and you stop like freaking out about your individual life. Like I feel like all of life all of society, all of my history, all of people that have come before me, all of my ancestors have like given me the baton, and now it's my turn to run as much as possible in this life and to do as much as I possibly can, and to like give glory to all of those three entities and then pass that on to my descendants. And that's like what invigorates me to try to be an excellent human. So it's not about me. Like, I don't care if I die. I know I'm gonna, I think that's why like I'm actually really grateful to God, because I had a near-death experience first year of university. Second year of university, I was really freaking out about my death like all the time, and I always felt like I was almost dying. And then I really came to terms with it, and I think that prepared me all for the war, honestly. So I'm kind of really grateful to God that he gave me that trajectory, because that helped me prepare mentally for this war. And yeah, so I don't know. I think seeing yourself in a grander vision can help with that. I don't know. What do you think?
Absolutely. No, I agree with a lot of everything what you just said, but I'm going to take a step back. Earlier this week, I was at a hospital with a lot of injured soldiers, and I met this guy, and I was speaking with him and his mom. And he said something that I'll never forget. He said he told his family and his mother, if they capture me, don't trade for me. Because I think he looked at this situation and said, you know what, I've come to terms with it. If I die, I die, and it's worse if they take me alive, but he'd rather live his life in Gaza than hurt his country and live free in Israel. That was powerful.
Yeah.
I'd never thought in that way until I heard that from him. So that stuck with me.
That's insane. See, that's so beautiful. See, I think it's like, it's hard to say out loud because it sounds so morally like bereft to say it, but at the same time, I think it's important to recognize within yourself, like when you told me that, what emotion did that elicit out of me was like respect, like incredible pride, and like, wow, like admiration. That's a hero. That's a hero. Why does it elicit that feeling? Because he's putting himself in the context of something grander outside of just himself.
It's sacrifice for the greater good. And I think there's something so noble in it. I mean, the foreword of The Alchemist puts it into words better than I ever could say it, and anyone who listens to this and is interested, it's 2 pages. I think it articulates how life should be lived so powerfully. But the point that you made a point, like you want to die in Israel, maybe die for Israel. I think it's Jordan Peterson who says, like, it's better to die trying to achieve something great than it is to live just mediocre. And I absolutely agree with that. Growing up, The Incredibles is my favorite movie. And
such a good movie.
Such a good movie.
Throwback,
but, you know, I rewatched it maybe a year or two ago, and I was like, wow, this is just like about escaping mediocrity, you know? It's like, just be incredible, right?
Ooh.
Like, I think there's something about that I'd be happy to die as an incredible person at the age of, I don't know, 21 now, like 25, I don't care. 22, if I can do incredible things and die, I'd be happy. Well, maybe I'm phrasing that wrong, but you get my point.
I actually totally get your point, and I was kind of laughing to myself in my head that I was like, you know, like, I think it's important to laugh. Okay, I don't want to have to preface like my humor, but I'm going to. It's dark humor, okay? I was like, I would rather die in like some epic way, unlike all those losers, because your body just gave up. Like, that, like, what a lame way to die.
It's very Goggins of you.
Yeah, like I would rather die from something. I want like a story, you know? Like I want personally for myself, if I could choose my death, I want to go out epic. Like I want a good story. I want to die for something awesome. Like you just died of old age. Like how freaking lame. I'm sorry.
You know, it's kind of fun. I think from a young age, I was indoctrinated into thinking this way by the TV show Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. Like that show, it tells stories of like heroes and of sacrifice, brotherhood, and it's like soldiers who are willing to die doing incredible things for each other for a greater cause. And I think like growing up as a kid and seeing that, it became something very important to me, where I crave like trying to achieve a higher purpose. And if I go up in a ball of flames along the way, it's a baba. Like at least I tried, you know. I
just hope it's fast, but
hope it's
you prefer
fun. Hope it's fun.
Slow death? Is that your preference?
No. But I think, you know, there's I've heard this said a lot recently, and I fully agree with it. There are a lot of people who survive life, but there are very few who live it. Yeah. You know?
Ooh. So I love that.
I think everyone needs to pursue these experiences that fill them with light, with energy, you know? Dedicate yourself to something greater than yourself. Yeah. And who knows who you could become along the way.
Yeah.
And who knows what you could achieve.
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe you could find yourself in the history books, right? As someone who, changed the trajectory of the world, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's delusions of grandeur to start thinking in that way.
No.
Maybe I can be a little delusional, but I think if you look at it, like, history is written, but the future is very ambiguous, and we all collectively have, a small say in how we write it.
Yeah. And I don't even think it matters, like, if you're written in the history books or not.
No.
The fact that you could be a hero in your own life and other people's lives is enough. Like, I have seen so many people that won't make it in the history book that came out of this situation but did absolute, like, I'm getting chills even thinking about the stories.
Let me
like,
rephrase it. Like,
yeah.
You shouldn't be well known, you should be good to know, right?
Bless. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
Something
you
like
could
that.
you could there are so many opportunities for heroism in life if you choose to become an active participant of life, and if you orient yourself towards something greater than yourself. Like, because the truth is you don't care about yourself. Like, we're very interesting in that we're kind of paradoxical that we both are obsessed with ourselves and also don't care about ourselves enough. Like, if I'm really weak. Like, I'm a very weak person. I'm not capable of anything. But when I think that, oh, I get all my strength from God, I get all my strength from my people, I get all my strength, I'm doing it for them, then all of a sudden I'm not thinking about myself, like, comparing myself to anyone. I'm not thinking about, like, oh my God, I have so much pressure, I can't handle it. It's like, dude, I could do everything. I could do literally everything, because it's not me. It's all of them that are carrying me.
Yeah. The reason I came to Duron's class is because of exactly that idea. I went to a little talk he gave on campus, and he asked for 2 volunteers, and it was me and Ron.
Nice.
And
Ron, really?
Yeah, it was me and Ron. So we went up onto the stage, and he says, I want you guys to think about something greater than yourselves, something you're willing to commit your lives to, something you're willing to lose your life for. Something like that. I don't remember exactly what he said. And he told these 2 girls sitting in front of us, count for them. He told us to just do push-ups and think about this thing, right? And for me, I did 52, Ron did 56. I'll give him that. I'm a little salty.
Yeah.
I want a rematch, but I was thinking of the Israeli flag, because this was not too long after I'd just come back from Israel, and I just had the flag in my mind of, like, this is a country that means so much to me on such a deep level.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's about not only the country, the nation itself, but about the people, the culture, the tradition, the religion, like the whole neshama, the whole neshama of it, like the spirit of Israel. That's what I was thinking of when I was doing those push-ups, and I did 52. Normally I don't do 52 push-ups in a row, right? But it's like that power of when you consider something else. Like, if I was doing it for me, if I was thinking of, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get ripped, like,
no, you don't care enough.
Maybe I get 20.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, yeah, sure, that'd be nice. But no,
Beautiful.
if I'm thinking of a country and something so meaningful to me, it changes how I operate, and I think that's exactly what you're saying, right?
Beautiful.
Which is, again, like, shout out to Daron, my mom. What a guy.
Seriously. I want to ask you, like, we have a mental toughness group chat.
Yeah.
Why do you care about mental toughness? What does it mean to you?
Because I've been mentally weak for a very long time, and to be mentally tough, it changes everything, but there were those days where I'd wake up and I'd look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, wow, you're a pathetic piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I knew it. But because I was a pathetic piece of shit, I didn't do anything to change it.
Yeah.
And that feeling, it's such a, like, it sticks with you, Like, I still look at whatever. But the fact is, once I got the ball rolling on becoming mentally tough, it was like, this is the only way to live my life. There is no other way than to push myself to become a better version.
Yeah.
There's a saying, like, when you die, you meet yourself, but you meet the person you could have been.
Oh,
right?
That gets me every time.
Yeah.
It really does. That really gets me.
That's a terrifying thought, because
I'd
like to meet myself. I'd like to shake my own hand when I pass on and not be too different from that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I can achieve 90, 95%. That's ambitious. But I know who I could have been. I've been someone very different than who I am now, and I think that's what motivates me. That's why, when I see other people like you and the rest of the people in that little group dedicated to mental toughness and dedicated to self-improvement, it's like, oh, like, I want these people around me. I want this to be more than just, oh, it's nice to see you in class. It should be something where we can turn to each other and have these kind of conversations.
Yeah. active participants of life.
Yeah. Shout out to Rafi for sending 1 million reels and YouTube shorts.
Straight up. Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, that's why I felt so strongly about mental toughness. That's why I went to Daron's class despite not being enrolled in it. Is I think there's maybe nothing more important in life than kind of the core values that he espoused in that course.
Yeah. And a lot of it's religious. Like a lot of it is.
Everything is religious. I would say. Every ideology, politics, even, what kind of cars you like or which Rakhala is a religion, and I am a strong believer.
Nice.
Everything is religious, I think, but because we're humans, we need something to look up to, something to give us comfort, something to dedicate and structure our values around. So,
but I think a lot of it's rooted in Jewish religion specifically. A lot of the things he says that he doesn't even recognize. Like Nikita texted me during class and was like, Na'aseh v'nishma. And I was like, holy...
Have you had Nikita on?
No.
You should.
You're right, I should.
You should. But
she's so great.
What was she saying? She was saying...
No, she just texted, like, oh my gosh, he's so religious, because he was talking about how you should just, say yes to everything and just do things. And then she texted me, it's Na'aseh v'nishma. And I was like, wow. And then I said it.
When I listened to Jordan Peterson's biblical series, where he goes through, the different books, I realized that there's a bit of a universal language that I think the Torah is written in, that you can find in certain types of people who are willing to fight this good fight, that the Torah articulates in a very powerful way. But at its core, it's a textbook on how to live your life that's told through stories, because stories are much more powerful to convey ideas, right? So I think even if you go and look at, different self-improvement people, a lot of what they're saying is similar to what the Torah says, right? It's about how you should structure your life and how you should find your values and how you should operate according to them, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I think Doron Mamam is an extremely religious thinker. His religion might not be the Jewish one, if that makes sense. And he is a Jew. He is Shomer Shabbat. I didn't know that. So it is. But maybe his religion is, but his language it's more military in style, I would say. Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah. It's like you were mentioning that stories are basically the drivers of those values. And that's something that Yuval Noah Harari says, but he takes the wrong conclusion. Like he says that I think it really stuck with me when he said that humans are basically all driven by narratives, and narratives are the thing that we run our lives with. And I think that that's true, but his conclusion to that, and I thought that was a really powerful idea. It really framed it was a very important distinction, and I was really grateful he said that. But his conclusion is completely abysmal and incorrect, that he says therefore they don't mean anything, and therefore they're all arbitrary. I'm like,
no, therefore they mean everything.
Therefore they are literally everything. They're drivers for good values, and the story that you tell yourself could completely change a human being and an outcome in society. They are everything.
Look at politics.
Not nothing.
Look at politics. Look at echo chambers, especially in the U.S. and on social media. That's just narratives. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Who you follow is a narrative. If I follow
and what
CNN,
story lights your soul.
Exactly. Yeah, if I follow CNN or I follow Fox, it's the same thing, just a different narrative. Yeah. Which means I operate in a different way, right?
Yeah.
I agree. The narratives, they are everything, but even the libertarians are so funny. I'd like to consider myself one of them, but no, I can't.
You can. They're too churlish.
Their narrative is that everyone else has narratives and they're all wrong, and we're right, but we're also wrong,
Yeah.
But then, just a funny story, not related to anything. One of them was talking about, they're making seat belts legal. What's next? We're gonna need an identification card to use our toasters, right? Okay, guys, take it easy. But,
yeah.
But no, it's these narratives. Everything we tell ourselves, even the fact that we're telling ourselves to look for the narratives, is a narrative, right?
Let's get real meta about it.
Yeah,
I love it. No, I totally agree. I love that for sure. Davi, I want to ask you, or tell you, super cool sweatshirt.
Thank you. I like it too.
Tell me about it. Where'd you get it?
I got it from my room. I have 200 of them in my room. Yeah, so I'll just tell a narrative.
Please.
Like I said, during the war, I was in the U.S. I was in Austin from August to January. And Sam was also there, and we were sitting at a cafe or burger place on New Year's or the day before New Year's. He said, "I have an idea to start a clothing brand." I was like, "Cool. Like, why are you telling me this? I don't care about clothing. Fashion's not my thing. Like, good luck with it." He's like, "Shut up and listen." And both of us, we come from non-Jewish communities, right? We're either the only Jews we know around Austin, or the only ones we're friends with. So during the war, Israel was the only thing on our mind most of the time, right? And I would get a lot of questions from my friends, and Sam the same. Like, why do you want to go back so bad? Like, why? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to go to the Middle East, which is a shit place anyway, and go to a country in the middle of a war? Like, how does that make any sense? From an American perspective, it doesn't. So Sam and I, he told me, like, I want to build a brand that resembles the Israeli spirit, right? And so we talked, we discussed it, and we figured the slogan, "We will dance again," it really does embody a lot of what we were feeling at the time and now.
That's what Mia
Shem. She has it tattooed right here.
She was a hostage.
She was a hostage. She was in Gaza. It's become a bit of a slogan for like Israeli spirit. We will dance again, despite what they've done to us, despite the war. We're still here. We still have our spirit. They can't stop us. They can't hurt us like that. So I loved it, and so Sam and I, we kept discussing, and we got in touch with a guy. His name is Amit Babai. He has a clothing brand called Tic Tac Toe. I met him first year. He had a booth here on campus, and I came to him and was like, "Wow, I love your stuff." He's like, "Thanks. Like, buy something, right?" And I was like, well, I don't have my credit card with me. And he's like, "Okay, so take what you want and come back tomorrow, and I'll be here. You can pay me then." So I walked away with like $100, like 400 check worth of stuff. Like, wow.
Amazing.
Came back, paid him the next day, and since then we've always been friendly. So Sam and I went to him with this idea and said, we want to make hoodies or clothing that, resembles Israel. We have a few ideas. And Amit said, "Wow, love it. Anything you need, I'll do." And so he's taken very good care of us. He gave us our graphic designer, the guy who made this design in Tel Aviv. He cuts and sews them in Petah Tikva. They're 100% cotton, very good material, fully made in Israel. And then Sam and I were saying, like, okay, this is amazing. Like, we love what we have, but it's not really enough. So we decided half of our profits we're going to donate to charity. The other half we're reinvesting to make more hoodies. But the charity, we've struggled a little bit trying to find the right charities, and there are a little bit of upsetting stories. We were looking for the right person for a long time, and hopefully we'll meet with these people next week. But there's these two girls who survived the Nova Festival, and their mission is to rehabilitate Israelis and kind of the victims of the war and survivors of the festival through social entrepreneurship, different initiatives, stuff like that. So we're donating half of our profits to them, and hopefully we'll have more information about them. I feel bad. The link to their charity is on like the third page of our website, like the About Us. Like, we need to make it more about them.
Yeah.
But we're waiting to get in touch with them and speak face to face with them, hopefully next week.
Yeah, amazing.
But so thank God it's been going very well. Everyone has been so supportive. I mean, I'll just get texts and calls randomly from numbers I don't know, people I don't know, saying, "Hey, I heard about your project. I love it. Can I buy? Can I help? What do you need?" Like, all this stuff, and it's been amazing.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. So a bit of a struggle we've had, we've been working with such amazing people, but Sam and I had this conversation. It's something I keep reminding myself is it's not about the money. It's not about like the vanity of it. It's not about us. Like, when I came, I was wearing the sweater over there. I wanted you to wear the hoodie because I don't want this to be about me or Sam. And he agrees with this. It's not supposed to be about us. It's supposed to be
real quick. I just want to say it's not that I wouldn't wear the hoodie. I was just
really hot in here. I'm sweating a bit.
Yeah.
But the point is we want this to be not about the clothing itself, but about the people that wear it, right? We want to build a community. We want to promote voices like your podcast, for example, or my roommate Mayor, or my former roommate Mayor, is a musician, and we want this to be a way for us to show what Israel means, and to show our experience, and to show the community, and to tell stories. This soldier I told you, Omer, like, I want to tell his story. Or I met this rabbi and his two sons. I think I told you about this. I sent you the video. I want to tell that story as well. That one still breaks my heart every time I think about it. But we want to build this into a platform, into a community where we can help promote not just Zionism, not just Judaism, but the individuals that make it so special, right? Like an idea we have for our next design, our graphic designer, he has some issues and got angry at us for Balagan, we'll just say. But point being, when we designed it, we told him we wanted black with a cream color. And then when we manufactured it, we didn't have a black, so we ended up going with these. And when we sent it to him, he got very upset that we didn't do what we had told him we were doing. Whatever. He quit.
Bummer.
Not really. Because now I had this idea that I love is I want to take the artists from the community and create a competition around like who will do the next design, right?
Davi, I want it. I love it.
Right? And so I want it to either a cash prize, they can take a percentage of the profit, or they can choose which charity the money goes to, something like that. It's an idea.
Amazing.
But and while we're doing it, we'll promote them. We'll do like polls on Instagram where you can vote, stuff like that. Like it's, I don't know. And we have ideas like this girl, she bought a hoodie for her boyfriend and was very happy, and she showed me like she had ideas for designs, and like her name's Michal, like she made some beautiful stuff, and it's not like our style, it's like high fashion designer streetwear, but like now we're trying to get her stuff made as well. Like
amazing.
I want to do anything I can to give back to the community that's done so much for us. And so we've had people reaching out to us saying like, what can I do to help? But even more than that, it's like I just want to help them, you know what I mean? It's like help me help you, help me.
That's how it should be. Like that honestly sets my soul on fire. Like it makes me so happy. That's what.
Can I say one more thing?
Go for it.
The only reason that this was possible was because of a class Sam and I had taught by Iris called Impact Entrepreneurship. And her slogan was do good and do well, right? Do good things and make some money doing it. Do well. And she really like changed the way we looked at business. It was funny. Sam going in was very much like that typical Texas conservative, like didn't really believe in climate change or sustainability. Coming out, he's a tree hugger, you know? So she really had a huge, like a paradigm shift in the way we thought about it. I just wanted to add to that.
No, that's so important. I'm grateful that you mentioned her for sure, and the impact she had.
So sweet. I gave a little talk in her class. She told me to come back, and
so beautiful.
Yeah, great. Just she's fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah. Davi, that makes me so happy. And I don't know why, like, it's so beautiful to witness an idea coming into fruition.
I have no idea how it feels. Like when we first got the hoodies, I was like a little kid in a candy shop. I couldn't stop smiling.
So
I was like,
exciting.
Wow, we did it.
Yeah. That's how I felt with my podcast, was just like taking some idea and then being scared, but doing it anyway. And then watching it kind of come into fruition is like birthing a child, maybe. I don't know. I'm assuming. And it's just the coolest thing.
It is.
It's so beautiful. And I love that you're also trying to help other people, because that's how it should be.
I want so many, like, I think we can build a tool, a platform for people to come to us to help build their dreams into realities. Like make that take things that they're passionate about and make it something that they can, something tangible, something they can feel and hold. And like, it's the greatest feeling in the world. I hope everyone gets to experience it.
It's so beautiful. And I love the entrepreneurial spirit of our school, and just watching people like start their businesses, and it's so inspiring and it's so beautiful, and like the connection that everyone has and the togetherness that it inspires, and like you doing that just makes me so happy. And I think it's really embodying the spirit of October 8th, like the day after the war, when everybody, like, okay, October 6th, country had never been more divided. October 7th, absolute hell. October 8th, everyone like mobilized, got together, and you had never seen more togetherness and connection in this Jewish country ever. Like, it was the most beautiful thing to witness, and like to continue that spirit and to just see each other as like we are each other's family, and that's it. Like, that's all that matters. I don't care about your politics. I don't care about any divisions, that arbitrary divisions that we're creating between ourselves. Like, we're abstracting to the most important elements of ourselves, which is that we're Jewish people, we're a family, and this is what's most important. And I love that you're continuing that spirit. It's so important.
A light upon the nations, right? Like that biblical idea of that we should be the one that the world turns to is an example of what the ideal version of like a society could be. I think Israel has such strong potential, and the individuals have such unique talents, and just there's so much life and spirit in this country. And I think like I want to help promote it. I want to help show people it. I want to help make it even stronger than it already is.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, to the unification of Israel, I think, is such a strong goal. Like, we need to be on the same page, because we can do such unreal, like just miraculous things when we're united.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy every day that we're not united.
I totally agree. And in this week's Parsha, in the Haftorah, which is the portion that's read from Nevi'im prophets that coincides with the weekly Torah portion, it talks about like how we should build the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and it says that we should, and basically God says like, and you should remind the Jewish people, like in case they forget why the temple was destroyed. And I just think about that, like I don't know, I guess it's kind of topical right now to this conversation, that like the reason that we believe spiritually that the second temple was destroyed was because of sinat chinam, which is like free hate that we had for each other. And that's exactly what fractured the society beforehand, before this war. And that's what causes division. And it's just, you don't even have to believe that on a spiritual level. That's just literally true. If a country is surrounded by enemies and they are divided, then they are weak. Yeah. That's just literally true. It's not about the spiritual element, although if that resonates with you or not, like that's fine, but it's just literally true. If you're surrounded by enemies and you're choosing to divide yourselves, then this is the result.
It's a funny, you're completely right, but it's funny. Not only are our enemies united by a mutual hate of us, or united by their mutual hate of us.
That's
right?
True. I actually mentioned this in a previous podcast, that I'm kind of grateful for anti-Semitism in a weird way, because it keeps us united. Like if my dad didn't experience anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union and wasn't constantly told that, he didn't even know he was Jewish until he was 10 years old. Like if they weren't constantly othered, then we would have assimilated. And you know, Herzl talks about that in his like Alta Newland also, that if we, you know, were assimilated, if they just waited 2 generations, then we would all be completely assimilated. But their hatred for us is too strong that it always like reunites us and like others us.
It connects to the idea that everything is for a reason, right? None of this is by accident. I think if not for anti-Semitism, actually anti-Zionism coming from Jews in DC at AU, I wouldn't be in Israel. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
But I am also thankful for the anti-Semitism we've seen recently, in a strange sense. It sounds so wrong to say out loud, but my younger sister, she's about to apply to colleges. And, you know, I'm a little biased. I told her, hey, I know this school. It's not too far from the beach. The people are nice.
But it's very far from your family. Well, but it's very nice.
Yeah. But she made the wise decision to leave the U.S. Now she's looking at going to the U.K.
Oh, okay. That's not better. It's kind of worse.
Yeah.
No, but maybe it'll be good for her.
No, look, getting out of the U.S. I think is good for anyone. But
yeah. Does she want to go to London?
Edinburgh. Scotland.
Edinburgh.
So,
Scotland. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe London if Edinburgh doesn't work out. But I told her, all right, but do a semester abroad at least. Come to Israel for a little while. Just come see it.
I think it might be really, well, she didn't grow up in like a Jewish environment either, right? So
not so much, no.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe she won't feel that way. But when I like came back from Israel when I was 15 and went to public school, I remember I felt like I never felt more Jewish in my life. I was like, I'm different. Like I know that I'm different and I feel how I'm different, you know. But if she grew up in public school, maybe she didn't.
It ties back to that early question of identity, right?
Yeah.
American before a Jew, right?
Yeah.
Politics before Judaism as an ideology, right? As a religion. So, again, it's all just about values at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But she's a lot smarter than I am. Her head's in the right place.
Yeah.
We're just, you know, in their own time, everyone figures out where they belong.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Mari, come to Israel. Come to IDC.
Bless you. We wish you luck. This school's awesome. You should definitely come.
Yeah.
All right, Davi, I wanted to ask you in closing, do you have a question for my next guest?
I do have a question for your next guest. Shipwreck, stuck on an island, and you only get to listen to 3 artists for the rest of your life. Who are they going to be? I know my answer because I've been asked this question. I've asked it before.
Say them.
The
And why?
Weekend. The Weekend because the old Weekend. It's just it's not even music. It's so crazy. House of Balloons. I'd strongly recommend to anyone who's never heard. They're
I'll
just
check
all
it
of it.
out.
Check out all trilogy. Just check out the old Weekend.
Not the new stuff.
The new stuff is different. I'd say after Starboy, it's not great.
It
It's not.
feels like hell, is what I'll say. The new
Yes,
stuff. I'm
yes.
not gonna
Look,
lie.
I've been in a dark place, and the Weekend. I don't know if it fueled it, but it was definitely a big part of it. The Weekend, his music. Wow.
I'm
So
walking through hell with him though.
yeah, yeah. The Weekend, and on the good days, it's Starboy. The Weekend, it's more than emotion. It's experience for music. Next, I'd say Billy Joel.
Why?
I don't know that I need to explain that. Have you know Billy Joel? You've listened to
Yeah.
just Vienna, like that song alone, it would be worth keeping.
Vienna, really? That gets you to your soul? It's nice, but it's not like,
Have you listened?
you know
to,
what?
the lyric? Okay,
I can't judge someone.
give it another listen. I don't know,
Dude, I've listened to that song on repeat. That's like one of the only songs I know by him. But I no.
Look into Billy Joel. He's
I
got a
will.
lot of amazing music.
He's Jewish, no?
I don't know.
I think he is.
Interesting. No idea.
At me, Billy. Let me
then-
know.
And then the last one is Eminem.
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 Old Eminem or new Eminem?
Old Eminem. Come
Yeah.
on. That's not even
That's not a question.
Yeah.
Old Eminem at the gym.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Damn.
gonna be doing some runs on the on that beach. So
Nice.
Eminem or climbing trees. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And if you have to fight something off, you need to like tap into that primal.
You know the
like,
story, The Most Dangerous Game?
No, tell me.
No, it's about a guy. He gets shipwrecked on an island, and he's wandering around, and there's a beautiful mansion, like a castle.
Yeah.
And he goes up, and the guy is really, welcoming,
Mm-hmm.
warm. They have a lovely dinner, hot shower, bath, and
Mhm.
at night they're drinking together. And he blacks out, and he wakes up in a cage. And the guy says, "We're gonna play a game.
Okay.
Good luck," and just lets him out into the wild. So, regardless of if I'm the hunter or the hunted, I've got Eminem playing during that. That's
Whoa.
yeah,
That hits deep.
yeah.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Eminem would get you through either of those. I'm pretty sure.
Specifically, the song "Bad Guy." I think I'd have on
Bad Guy.
"Bad Guy."
I need to check that one out.
Evil Twin also. I don't know.
Evil Twin. Right on.
Yeah.
I like it. You know what? I like it, Davi. That's a great question.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you all for joining us on this beautiful journey of exploring a little bit of Davi. And thank you so much for
Of
sharing
course.
everything.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, wait, one more question. Where could people find the sweatshirts if they want to contribute?
Urim.clothing, Urim. And just real quick about the name, Urim and Thummim are two biblical stones used by the Israelites to communicate with God in rough times. Urim is the nicer way of saying it, but I'm an American. I don't love the name. I think we might change it to Orim, light or im to get regardless. Urim.clothing, Urim.clothing on Instagram. That's also our website. You can just type it in and it'll show up.
Amazing. Go and get your sweatshirts, everyone. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
of
joining
course.
me, Davi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching our first videoed episode. You're listening to Audioversity. Peace.